All right, today we're diving into something called HRR-Ω. And look, this isn't just some framework that wants to tweak humanitarian aid. No, it wants to blow it up and start over by changing the most basic question we ask.
In this slide right here, this is the whole ballgame. For decades, the entire humanitarian world has been built on the question on the left. Hey, do you trust us? Trust us to do good with your money? HRR-Ω comes along and just says, no. It rejects that question entirely and asks something totally different. Show the witness. And with that one change, everything shifts. We're not talking about trust anymore, we're talking about proof.
So to really get why that shift is so, well, seismic, we've got to look at the world we're leaving behind. A world where humanitarian aid at its core isn't about data. It's about stories. It's about a narrative that we're told and that we're simply asked to believe in.
And this gets right to the money, literally. The old way of doing things on the left runs on what's called budget-based logic. What does that mean? It's simple. Success is measured by how much money you spend. The budget's gone? Great job. It's all about the inputs, but HRR-Ω over on the right flips that completely. It's all about outcome-based logic. Success only, and I mean only, happens when a result is actually physically verified.
This reliance on stories creates this gap. The source material calls it narrative slack. Think of it like this. It's the space between the glossy annual report and the messy, unverified reality on the ground. It's this wiggle room, this buffer zone, that lets you rebrand a total failure as a valuable learning experience. It's where inefficiency just vanishes from the story. It's not necessarily malicious. It's a survival mechanism for the system.
And honestly, the analogy for this is just perfect. It's like a theater production. We, the donors, we buy the tickets. The organization puts on this amazing performance, the beautiful website, the heart-wrenching annual report, and we all stand up and applaud. But what actually happened backstage? Did the set fall down? Did half the actors forget their lines? In a world with narrative slack, none of that matters. As long as the show on stage looks good, the show goes on.
Okay, so if that's the old world, how does HRR-Ω build a new one? Well, here's the key. It doesn't try to tell a better story. It's not a story at all. It's an accountability machine. It looks at a problem like hunger and doesn't see a moral issue to write about. It sees a physics problem to be solved and, more importantly, to be measured.
So what is this machine really? Okay, technically, the jargon is a Constraint-Bound Analytic Runtime, or CBAR. Yeah, I know, that sounds super complex, but all it really means is that it's a system that runs on a strict set of rules that cannot be bent or broken. It's not about human judgment or discretion. The whole point is to take trust completely out of the equation and force everyone to show mandatory, verifiable proof, period.
So remember that theater production analogy? Well, if the old world is a theater, this new world is a black box flight recorder. And a black box doesn't care one bit about the pilot's noble intentions. It doesn't care about the inspiring speech they gave before takeoff. It just records, mechanically, coldly. It logs the hard data, how many calories were delivered, who had them, and at what time. The truth isn't in the story anymore, it's in the data stream.
Okay, so how does this machine actually enforce that kind of truth? It's all built around 5 core rules, and these aren't suggestions. They're non-negotiable, and they're enforced by the code itself. So let's break them down.
All right, here they are, the 5 rules of truth. You've got inversion of value, the witness chain, anti-mimicry protocols, final seal irreversibility, and automated authority removal. When you put all 5 of these together, their one job is to systematically hunt down and eliminate every last bit of that narrative slack we talked about.
First up, rule number 1, inversion of value. And seriously, this is a total game changer. So any money donated to the system, it goes into an escrow vault. And in there, it's basically just inert data. It has 0 value. Value is only created in the form of something called relief credits at the exact moment the system gets cryptographic proof that a calorie was consumed by a real person. So spending your budget, it means absolutely nothing.
Rule number 2 is the witness chain. Think of this as getting rid of paper reports and replacing them with an unbreakable digital chain of custody. Every single step, from the farm that grew the food, to the truck that moved it, to the person who ate it, every step has to be witnessed and signed cryptographically. And if even one link in that chain breaks, the whole thing is automatically invalidated. Poof! No more wondering where the aid went.
Okay, rule 3 is cool. The system actively defends itself. It has these anti-mimicry protocols, which are basically an immune system against fraud. They're built to automatically sniff out and reject all the classic tricks in real time. Things like made-up ghost recipients, inflated numbers, counting the same delivery twice. The system sees those patterns and just says, nope, shutting it down instantly without needing a human to go check the books.
And this quote really says it all, doesn't it? You cannot pretend to feed people inside a wano. That's the whole point. The goal of these protocols is to make faking a result computationally, mathematically impossible. The machine doesn't read your report. It reads the data, and it's designed to reject anything that doesn't add up.
Rule number 4 is final seal irreversibility. So once a relief project or cycle is over, the final outcome is cryptographically sealed. It's locked in. You can't change it, you can't spin it, you can't explain it away 6 months later in a press release. History literally becomes a read-only file. There's no rewriting it. And that leads directly into the 5th and final rule, automated authority removal. This is the consequence. If anyone in the chain, a supplier, a distributor, anyone, repeatedly fails to provide the right cryptographic proof, the system automatically revokes their credentials. They're just locked out. The machine does it, not a person. It takes all the politics and human bias out of enforcement.
So, okay, let's step back. When you put all these rules together, you have an economy based purely on results, an unbreakable chain of digital proof, and an automated enforcement cop. What you end up with isn't just a better version of the old system, it's something else entirely. It's fundamentally structurally different.
And this table is where that collision becomes crystal clear. Just look at the requirements side by side. Outcome-based value? That's a must-have for HRR-Ω, but it's a can't-do for a traditional NGO built around spending a budget. An open, public ledger? Automated fraud detection? A history that can't be edited? On every single one of these core structural points, they are polar opposites.
And that leads you to a pretty stark conclusion. This isn't about which model is better, like two companies competing for market share. No, as the source puts it, they are incompatible species. They simply cannot live in the same ecosystem. One evolved to thrive in a world of storytelling, the other was engineered from the ground up for a world of hard, verifiable proof.
And that brings us to the final and maybe the most profound point of all. What happens when truth is no longer optional? What's the price of mandatory transparency? It forces us to stop asking the old questions and start asking a completely new one. Because in a world where a system like this exists, the debate completely changes. The question is no longer, will this money end hunger? Instead, the question becomes, which institutions are exposed when the truth is transparent and unavoidable? Which narratives can't survive the light of day? And that is a question with consequences that go way, way beyond just humanitarian aid.